tech. No.
Timed it just wrong for that.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that'll get the audience wondering what's happening.
But anyway,
I'm
enough
dis-
about Rasmus.
Do you know, I went straight in last time with Rasmus, so I had to be careful on that one. And
You never want to go straight in with Rasmus. At least buy him a
poor
drink
Rasmus.
first.
Or just turn up with a knife. He likes knives, I hear.
But he gets the first mention, so he's always going to be
Yeah.
pleased with that.
Well,
But,
yeah, I mean, Raz might get the first mention, but for anyone watching the video, they get to see Dr. Malty plastered across Simon's chest.
Well, like I say,
really
I
should have
didn't know
phrased
who
that differently.
I'm sure he's been in worse places. Just hopefully in scrubs.
That doesn't help.
Clean ones. But I've lost the plot. I don't even know what I was going to say anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, good night, folks. Yeah.
This thing's gone live, and I think my temperature has gone through the roof.
Open your VLux again.
The weird thing is I'm doing slow things on that screen. The delay.
Oh, God, yeah.
So I'm just opening the window now. Right.
Yeah, so about last week we said Happy New Year last week, didn't we? But this is a proper Happy New Year because we actually recorded last week's New Year's podcast.
We're now in the future present.
Last year. Which was really odd, yeah, because we were trying to talk in the future but also talk in the past. Time travel.
Yeah, there's
Really,
a podcast
really
I
annoying.
listen to that's recorded on a Saturday afternoon, but they record Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and somehow you're listening to it and they always get the day right.
Oh,
Each episode's only about 20 minutes long, and it's quite remarkable on how they do it. Whether or not they
must
finish
just
it,
pick a
they write
day.
it somewhere on the wall.
Either that or they just pick a day and then they just check through whichever, they just kind of splice the bits back together.
Yeah.
Whenever someone mentions the day.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
Duncan.
it could be. That could be tricky, couldn't it? Yeah, trying to. Because I listen to podcasts that are daily, and you kind of think, you don't record this daily. You do this on block. You have to. You can't do a 10-minute podcast without doing it on block. Not the nature of the work.
Yeah.
And you think, yeah, you just have a big recording session.
But
And you sometimes hear it on the one Cool Tools, which is a really good podcast. I quite like it because I like hearing people. The tools aren't necessarily ones that I would necessarily want or use, but I quite like listening to people talk about why they like particular tools. And they're always kind of, I think, 30 minutes, because they're always going to go, right, we've got to finish because we've got the next guest coming up, because they record on block.
God, can you imagine if we tried to do that and record like a month's worth of podcasts in one day?
You'd never sleep.
We'd run out of time limit on StreamYard. I've had the you're running out of space warning quite a few times already.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think we'd just be running out of physical day to be able to record a month's worth in one day.
You just start Friday evening, finish just about now for a live set.
I mean, we generally start Sunday and finish Monday, so
Yeah.
Yeah, which for the benefit of anyone who's got this far into the podcast, it's probably not going to be today. Yeah, we're going to have it's not going to be a long one, because last week may have been record breaking.
I can't break my own record now, can I?
Well, we can just blame Duncan for last week, can't we?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Always blame Duncan if you can.
But I've been impressed that so far only Rasmus has put the correct, sort of correct number up. So
He hasn't actually said what the number is.
No, but I did. At least I said that though, right at the end. I was trying to think whether or not I'd given a hint out in another chat that I'm in, that Rasmus is in, and I didn't think I did. So
Yeah. Well, now you're going to get all the people who are just going to fast forward to the end of the podcast, hear you say the number, and then try and put the try and win whatever prize we pretended to offer out last week.
Yeah, a stale Welsh cake at Maker Central. There we go.
they were good Welsh cakes at Maker Central.
I was going to say I'd still eat it.
And we're not that long. We're not far away from it, are we? End of April.
Yeah, it's just shy of 5 months,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually got around to cancelling the booking that was moving and actually book the right one. All of a sudden, it was as Jamie was saying, we were chatting away, and whenever it was we were chatting, and it was like, well, hang on a minute, it's all right, keep moving this thing, but what if I actually get to and finally it's now within the moving date, and they're fully booked. So I'd have bounced it every 3 months for a year to find out.
That was my worry.
Yeah, and since my daughter is really excited to be coming, I kind of that might have upset her a little bit. So,
Yeah.
although she's only doing the Sunday, her intention is to sit in the hotel room and read all day Saturday. She said that is going to be her bliss time. She's really looking forward to that. And I was like, okay.
Does she know there's no room service at the Premier Inn?
Well, the problem that's the one. I'm bringing the celiac one, so I don't even think she can eat at the Premier Inn anyway. So I need
they can cater.
well, the problem with the
because
celiac.
A few years ago, my family all went on holiday without me, and although my wife and eldest aren't strictly celiac, and we don't want to be tested, because to be tested you have to basically start eating wheat again for at least
test
3
a reaction
weeks,
to you having eaten
and
it.
I don't think any of us would actually survive that.
Yeah, I'll get that.
So they stayed a couple of times because they did a bit of a tour, a bit of a grand tour, and they stayed at a Premier Inn on part of the holiday, and they were able to find some food to eat.
Oh, right.
So it can be done, and I think it's very much a case of sort of talk to the management as well and say, look, coming.
Yeah, it's a
But
few times when trying to
I will be
explain
bringing-
really how severe celiac is, rather than just because I mean it's like my aunt, for example. She had a reaction at a restaurant she'd been to plenty of times. I think she could eat for the wide range of bits that she's allergic to, but she can't eat egg. And goes for gammon, egg and chips, and she was convinced that someone must have stuck the egg on there and then taken the egg off, realizing she didn't want egg, and that was enough for her to have a reaction.
Yeah. Well, I will bring some. I will be bringing gluten-free Welsh cakes, and
she'll
they
be
will
over the
be
moon
they
with
will
that.
be celiac friendly.
Yeah, she really enjoyed the last ones that you gave me to give to her, and they made it there.
Well done, Dad.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, I mean, there are you say to a lot of people, "Oh, this is gluten free," and you're going to get some people that immediately, "Oh, it's going to taste crap then." But it depends on how you've managed to swap out for the to make them gluten free. So we actually did a New Year's Eve party. Well, actually, the other daughter arranged a New Year's Eve party, so there's a few more people than I felt comfortable with, but everyone was well behaved, and there was more than 4 of us. So, but my wife didn't tell anyone, but did everything was completely gluten free, and it was actually quite a good amount of. Wow, this is really nice. You'll have to give me the recipe for this kind of thing, rather than, oh, by the way, everything's gluten free. So you kind of still do the same thing. A spoon is individually in anything, but normally if we do a buffet or anything, Mia gets served first, and that way it doesn't matter then what happens after that. No.
That's been the vegetarian problem for my whole life. That the same sort of thing of you either get
Omelette.
yeah, which is all right for me because I suppose I'm pescatarian rather than being full on strict veggie. But my dad is veggie, so he if you give him an omelette, he won't eat it. He will have egg if it's baked into something, so he'll eat cake because there's no texture of egg.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that sort of thing. If you either end up with nothing to eat or just a cheese salad or something, or you end up with that sort of situation where someone goes to all the effort and makes a load of veggie food, properly caters for you, and then you sort of like shuffled off to the side, or they usher you in before everyone else gets to the buffet or whatever. It's like, this is the bit you can eat. You're allowed to eat these, and then invariably you see if you get in there first, and then like everyone else has got some of it on their plate. They're all going, "Oh my god, this tastes amazing!" We're really missing out. You think, it's a good job we got in there to actually get some first. We've had that family parties or things like that where we know that there's some veggie stuff, but then everything gets opened up at the same time, and by the time we actually get to it, all the veggie stuff's gone, and all the meat stuff's still left there. It's been
The worst one if you're gluten free is that somebody says, oh, right, but there's some stuff that's labelled off as gluten free, and then you get to it, and it's all nicely labelled, it's on set apart of the table, but people who've got no understanding of what that actually means for people who are gluten free have been in there, and there's a piece of bread on the side of the plate, proper bread, and you think, right, so it's all contaminated. Or we'd been to it was a church service, and they were doing communion, and the people around the church knew that several of us were gluten free. So it's right, we've got some gluten free bread, it'll be fine. And then the person who was dispensing the bread was walking round with a piece of ordinary bread, because they used ordinary bread for the people who weren't gluten free, but with a piece of gluten free bread on top of it. So they were kind of, we'll skip, thanks. Sorry, it's like, because just no understanding that just putting that piece of bread, the gluten free bread on the gluten bread, is enough to cause contamination.
It's essentially an allergic reaction to protein, isn't it?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, but like people are just about understanding about it with like peanuts. There was a kid at my daughter's school in a previous school who was hugely allergic to peanuts. So carrying an EpiPen around, and everyone in the school, until this kid had left, everyone in the school, it was like a full-on ban on packed lunches with anything like peanut butter or chocolate spread or anything containing nuts, just because of the breathing it out would set them off.
My daughter's primary school was that. It was a list of things that you weren't allowed in your sandwiches, full stop.
Yeah, which is, it's good that it's come a long way since I was a kid, that kind of thing, and even down to like the availability of gluten-free stuff in the shops and things, and same for veggie and vegan stuff. It's almost like the people who are doing it for a fad rather than actually needing it have kind of bumped the numbers up enough to make companies actually realise that it's worth investing a bit of time and money.
What's quite interesting, Warburtons, who make obviously the bread manufacturer, they started producing a range of gluten-free material, and I can't remember exactly the relationship, but the managing director, either their daughter or their niece was celiac, and so they went, what do you mean you can't? You can eat. You can't eat, but we make as a family. You can't eat it, and like, right, we'll deal with this. We'll sort something out. So they were one of the first big manufacturers to start producing a good range of gluten-free foods. And some of them are, some of the Warburton stuff is really good. It's expensive, but it's really good.
Yeah, Mia quite likes their square sandwich thing. I can't think what they're actually called now. Sandwich things or something like that. Yeah, she said they're quite nice.
Lovely.
But we were on holiday when you could do foreign holidays a lot easier.
Back in the before times.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think actually where it was. La Palma, and Mia got given this little plaque that said in about 4 different languages that she needed to be gluten free. You'd walk up and wave it to one of the members of staff, and they would unlock this giant glass cabinet. And literally, the rule was, if you wanted to, you could have emptied the glass cabinet and wandered off with it rather than just take what you wanted. So, and it was the first time she got to try the entire Shah range, because they had everything. And the focaccia bread, I think it is. For some reason, in England, it seems to be like rocking horse feces to buy the stuff. But over there, and it's unlike a lot of gluten-free bread, it was moist. And she absolutely loved it. I kind of thought I'd be nice for her one day, and I bought some. 14 quid I paid for 4 of them. But the look on her face, and Sarah was kind of like, well, you can get this occasionally, and it appears here, and it's like nowhere near that expensive. And it was. I finally found it for sale. It was just buy it, because I had found it somewhere that I could get it shipped to here. But,
yeah, we have their ciabattas on the weekend. We'll have one of our lunches on the weekend. Will often be a ciabatta, heated up, some smoked salmon or something, poached egg. That was what we had for lunch today.
Today she had the little quiches. Sainsbury's do them in their chilled section. They have a small gluten-free section in their chilled section, and they're affordable. I can't remember how much they were, but I walked in there last time, and because we don't have a Sainsbury's particularly close to us, I just kind of bought 3 of each flavour and bought them back. But this is the problem. You go to, say, Tesco's, for example, and it's free from range, but almost everything you pick up is free from everything. No dairy, no dunk on the table. Right, okay.
Yeah. No texture, no flavour.
It's like the biscuits that they used to put out on the ships.
Hardtack.
That's it. Good thing what it's called.
Hardtack with different packaging, yeah.
One of the problems we've got is that a lot of times, particularly things like biscuits, they'll use gluten-free oat flour for the biscuits. It's really common, particularly things like the cookies, the nice sort of chocolate chip cookies that you get from like Sainsbury's or Tesco's. But my eldest can't, and my wife can't eat those. I'm all right with them.
I've got a feeling.
Yeah, except it's a bit of a tummy thing. But although they're gluten-free oats, they can't eat them.
Yeah, Mia can't either.
They've got problems with wheat and oats, even the gluten-free ones.
Yeah, I've got a feeling when Mia went for all of her stuff, she got told to stay away from. I'm sure it was oats. So she did, or does, I should say. But quite often as well, if you go through the Tesco's food and you go for the finest, it doesn't have wheat in it. It's not packed out with junk. Aldi are very good for not writing gluten-free all over everything, but loads of stuff.
Yeah.
So a good way of doing it actually is Sarah joined the Celiac Facebook group, I think it was, and pretty much just people just keep listing, oh great, I've just found this we can eat, and it's such and such. And if you're buying something that doesn't say gluten-free but it is, the prices are back to normal prices again. You're not paying ridiculous amounts for everything.
We find that with things like if you go into the freeform section at Sainsbury's or Tesco's, you can get like wraps. You can get gluten-free wraps, and they'll be like £4 for 6. Stupidly expensive. Yeah, when you can buy the wheat ones for like 80p for the equivalent, and the wheat ones will be bigger as well. But 18 months ago, I think it was, there was a discussion on We Like to Make Stuff Facebook group talking about tacos. Now I've never had proper tacos. It's just not one of those things. I've kind of made my own version of it and things like that, but never had proper tacos. And I was talking about that and sort of saying, it's not like to happen now because it's difficult to get. Can't get corn taco shells. I don't like the hard ones anyway, but I like the soft tacos. It's really difficult to get. And it was quite funny because Peter Brown, who's based in the States, basically did some Googling and said, did you know Sainsbury's sell these corn ones that are, they're gluten-free? They're not in the gluten-free section. They're not in the free-from section. So if you go to the kind of the Mexican section of Sainsbury's, you can get these, they call them street market corn tortillas, little kind of soft wraps, small ones. They're half the price. You get, I think it's like 8 in a packet for less than £2, and they're lovely. Yeah, they're really nice, and they're gluten free. And it does say on them they're gluten free, so it's like proper. Yeah, they've recognised it. It's not like it's made in a factory that may contain. Yeah, it's properly done gluten free. But they're not in the free from section, so they're half the price.
Well, you get the same sort of thing with like the vegan stuff. So I know, like Demo was saying about the vegan stuff as well. There's a whole sort of culture around accidentally vegan. I've got a handful of vegan friends who are, kind of delighted every couple of days to find something else that's now gone vegan. And there's loads of things that are just making these little changes and not even announcing it. Just months down the line, there'll be someone on a Facebook group will just go, "Oh, did you know these are they've now gone vegan certified," or stuff like that. It just seems to be having this kind of gentle shift, to kind of make things a little bit easier, which is quite nice.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see whether or not people like Cadbury's would be able to do that, because I mean they've got half their range that's made in one factory that isn't gluten free, and the other half it's not made in the same factory, like the bigger bars, and they are gluten free. So it'll be interesting on if they can start doing their glass and a half of milk that's vegan. They'll be able to tick all the boxes for everybody.
The majority of dark chocolate is vegan anyway.
But that's devil's food. Where was I at one point? A Lindor shop or something like that, and I just happened to be walking through and seeing for the first time this horrific array of different flavoured chocolates, as opposed to when did chocolate stop being chocolate flavoured? And I just happened to be walking through, and I didn't think I said it particularly loudly, but who on earth would put chili in chocolate? Pretty much this guy's jumped over the counter to grab my hand and grab a bar, pulled me back, and literally breaking bits up and said, "Right, you're not leaving the shop until you've tried this." Yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, that's great customer service, but at the same time, I was okay. I'm having is pretty much like you're trying it. If it wasn't dark chocolate, it wasn't too bad. But the dark chocolate for me was just that little bit too bitter. I'd needed a swig of tea or coffee with every kind of it'd been like that.
So it is really, really good with a hot chocolate or with a mug of coffee.
So chocolate with chocolate.
Oh, of course. But the whole relationship with chili and chocolate goes back to where chocolate sort of originated, and it was South Americans would make like a hot chocolate type drink with chili and spices and everything, as kind of a part of their daily rituals and stuff. But it is delicious to have some chili with chocolate. And it's also delicious going the other way if you're making something like a chili con carne, to put dark chocolate in with the chili, because they complement. There's similar compounds in both that complement each other really, really well.
Yeah, I learned that one at university, sticking kind of sort of chocolate into chili.
Yeah, good quality dark chocolate, not like a Mars bar into. That wouldn't work so well.
I tell you what, it's quite good though. If you put bounty bars into a curry, that can work nicely.
Oh,
do they even sell Bounty? Because I haven't seen one for ages.
Yeah.
Oh right.
Yeah, you can get dark ones as well.
The darks. They were the red bar.
Red bars, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my daughter happened to mention them the other day, and because I'm the only one that likes coconut in my house, and I couldn't remember the last time I actually saw a Bounty. And I fill up most weeks, so I go into a fuel station of one way or another.
Talking of fuel station, I did see white chocolate Snickers yesterday on the way back from picking the new car up.
And did you try it?
Yeah. So I went, what? I'm having that.
Yeah. I bought one going down the A47 back down to the 25, and if it wasn't for the fact I didn't open it until I got on the 25, I'd have been turning around and going back. Yeah, that was nice. White Twix as well, they're good.
Yeah, white Twix is good. The salted caramel Twix is amazing.
My favourite when they do it was the New York cheesecake Chunkies.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah. Once I went chunky, I can't go back to Four Fingers. I need a fat one. Had to be done. Sorry.
White chocolate, best white chocolate going has got to be Green and Black's, and it is full of bits of vanilla as well. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Sorry, what's this? Green and Black's, and it's what? White chocolate?
Yeah, they're a London-based chocolate. Yeah, you see them in supermarkets and stuff. But they're London.
Their taster pack. Their taster pack is really at Christmas. They often have the taster pack reduced. Otherwise,
as it happens,
like £11.
I got one of those. Doesn't have the white chocolate in it though, but it does have the milk, butterscotch.
Yeah, there's two sizes. There's a small one like that, and there's a bigger one. There's twice as big.
Well, apparently they're at Tesco's. Okay.
Yeah.
The butterscotch is lovely. I like the butterscotch.
Well, I'm quite lucky because one of the buildings that I look after, one of our customers, which actually also happens to be the previous manager of that building, happens to import and sell on again pretty much every Lindor flavour that's ever existed. And I've been down to see him a few times and said, how much can I get for this? And then I've came out one time, I kid you not, I think it weighed about 1 kilo. And I went, okay, that's impressive. And I would like to say it took me a while to get through. It didn't.
That didn't.
And then on another occasion,
take a while.
Yeah, then on an occasion when I was going out to Oz, I decided I was going to 2 different houses, so I said, okay, right, I'll have a bag of one of everything and another bag of one of everything. Again, that wasn't very much money, and then just hoped it stayed frozen in the time it took me to get there. Or frozen, yeah. We put it in the freezer and then just stuck it in the bag. Knew we were flying through Dubai, didn't know how long it would take. It would be stuck on. Remarkably, we got there and everything was still intact. But yeah,
I do like Lindor. It's got to be one of my favourite chocolates.
I bought one of their boxes, yay big, for Christmas. I don't think it lasted a day, which could explain why I'm now nearly 15 stone. Well, that and the rest of the stuff I eat.
I was daft enough to weigh myself the other day, and I'm significantly more than I should be at the minute.
Well, I got on the scales and I turned around and I said loud enough to her, "My goodness, that was rude." And wife's like, "What was that?" I said, "The scales just told me one at a time."
Yeah, mine says no livestock.
I haven't heard that one before. Oh, if only scales could do things like that, that'd be brilliant.
Someone's got to do that now. Just classify you to the nearest size of animal.
I mean, from a point of view of kind of, automation, Internet of Things type thing, that would be fairly straightforward to do.
Yeah,
just need a
database platform and an Arduino to just pick them out of a.
Well, my scales are app controlled as well, which would be fairly easy with something like that. I've never worked out how to get them out of pounds. When I look down there, I have to go, "I ain't got bloody clue how much is that?" Just pick the phone up and go, "You fat bastard."
Yeah,
it's weird, isn't it? I can't do pounds, but for me, they're being bought up on stones and pounds.
Yeah,
but I can't do
pounds and kilos.
But I don't know how much I should weigh in kilos, but I know kilos is the only weight I actually know how heavy something is from the days of being in a gym. So you tell me something's 50 kilos, and I go, yeah, okay, I can move that. Tell me something's 100 kilos, and I'm thinking, yeah, definitely used to be able to move that. Tell me it's 150, and I go, yeah, butt's going to pucker up, but we'll get it moved. Me and my dad are the same, though. If we can get it to our shoulder, it's getting moved.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Whenever you watch the World Strongman stuff, they never stick it up and put it on the shoulder. Yet for me and my dad, I mean, if it can get there, it's ours.
Yeah, but the problem with the World's Strongest Man stuff is they've got so much upper body anyway. If they could lift something to their shoulder, there would then be too much shoulder next to their head. So they may as well just put it on their heads.
Have you seen one of the little videos that was going around at one point, and they walked up behind someone and stuck a sticker in the middle of the strongman's back, and he just can't get an arm. You just hear the like, "You bastard!" He's trying to rub it off. He's like a bear on a wall trying to get the sticker off.
I haven't seen that in years. I used to watch it regularly. I mean, as a kid, my dad and I would watch it every year, absolutely without fail. It was the thing, and I did for many years, but I haven't watched it now for probably 10 years. I feel.
I kind of miss the people who were in it 10 years ago, because I still keep commenting and making reference to that people 10 years ago with who we have now, albeit Mark Felix is still there.
Mark Felix, well, Terry Hollands has just retired, hasn't he? But Mark Felix,
that was an unfortunate way to go out, I must admit. But
well, you see, I haven't watched the last couple of years because I followed the Strongman on Reddit.
Just need to find Eddie.
Well, this is the thing: is of course they film it in May, so I know the results in May, and then I have to wait until December to actually view it. So by that point, usually I can't remember who's won. Apart from 2017 and 2018, but then it's like, well, there's no point watching the heats because I know the ending.
Well, the interesting one for this was that the day before or the morning of the day, the morning the show started, not the final, but the whole little lead up and then the final. They told you who won on BBC Breakfast. They advertised the programme starting that night and then told you who won it. And it was just like, really?
I mean, it's not surprising that he won.
No, but to be honest, I mean that's got to be some impressive family, considering the other one got Europe's Strongest Man this year, and in comparison to his brother, he's tiny.
Yeah, I mean, but to be fair, most of the strongmen are tiny compared to Tom.
Yeah, I was actually trying to think. Well, if we're going around. If you got it on record and it was on that long ago, yeah. If it happened in May, you should have known the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
But is the fight going to happen this year?
Hopefully, I think it's. I've seen some very, very funny stuff for that. For those not familiar with this, the two of the former world's strongest men got into a little bit of a tussle back in 2017, 2018. That was Eddie Hall from the UK and Hafthor Bjornsson from Iceland.
Is he the guy who was in Game of Thrones?
Yes, he's the guy who played the Mountain in Game of Thrones. Big fella, 6'9" or something like that. And they had a little bit of a rivalry because they were a similar age, and they'd been sort of neck and neck for a good few years. And then there were some lifts in the 2017 World's Strongest Man where Hafthor was warned about a particular way that he was not doing the lift properly. So he had a couple of lifts disqualified from one of his sets and didn't win. He thinks he should have placed higher, and ultimately Eddie Hall won that year. There's been several investigations into it, have confirmed that he's just basically been a diva, and that Eddie should have won, which he did. And then the following year, because Eddie basically said as soon as he won he was going to retire, which he did. The following year, Hafthor won. But from that point of Eddie winning in 2017, Hafthor was not being particularly sportsmanlike online and other stuff. So they basically decided they would have a sponsored boxing match. It's been sort of dubbed the heaviest boxing match in history because they're both colossal monsters.
Eddie has lost so much weight.
They both have. They've
Yes,
both lost masses of weight and really, really conditioned up. But ultimately, they're both being paid $1 million a piece, I think, to beat seven bells out of each other in the ring. It was supposed to happen last year in September, but in the run-up to the fight, Eddie managed to tear his bicep off. So after having it all reattached and everything, gone through rehab, and then has got back up to fighting fitness. So
he did that punching something as well, didn't he?
Yeah, sparring.
It wasn't.
But he has had trouble with that left bicep before. So, yeah, it should be interesting because there's a massive online rivalry between the two, and there's
Team doesn't even bear thinking about those two trying to clobber each other.
Yeah.
The training videos of Eddie going up against people, and you're watching them wearing reinforced jackets and reinforced armor, and he's still breaking people's ribs. That's the scary bit, and this is him sparring.
One of his sparring partners, he put him in hospital, and the guy to have 6 weeks off training with him. But yeah, they're monsters anyway to begin with. But then to be absolutely smacking the shit out of each other, it's just ridiculous. But Eddie was a former Olympic swimmer, so he's got really, really good fast twitch. He was, yeah. He started out as an Olympic swimmer and then shifted into strongman.
Wow!
So he's a proper elite sportsman and has been his whole life. So yeah. Whereas Hafthor started out in basketball because he's tall. Yeah. I think people might have picked up on my slight bias towards Eddie, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, Eddie is interesting on how much he now wants the fight to happen, to the point where he's even throwing his own money at it, or at charity, for Hafthor to hurry up and get on with it.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I think what was he said? $250,000 of their winnings will go. Whoever loses, $250,000 of their winnings will go to the charity of the winner. Yeah. Eddie is very much community and mental health charities and things like that. So he just sort of he's trying to do as much good as he can with the fight as well, which is quite nice to see.
Yeah, I want his truck as well.
I guess he needs a truck the size of him. Yeah.
They've done some work to hit the truck. It's not standard. It's a UK model given with an American kit, an American lift kit, and it dwarfs mine and anyone else's really in the UK.
Well, what was it? He from when I think he was 14 onwards. At every age, he's been that weight in stone. So he was 14 stone when he was 14, 15 stone at 15. And I think he was 33 when he won the... He might have been 30 when he won World's Strongest Man. But he's been
quite happily... 30 stone?
Yeah, quite happily been sitting at 33 stone at one point, I think. 400 pounds or so. I think now he's at... Was he down to something like 157 kilos at the minute? Which is still 26 stone or something.
But there's no fat on him.
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous, and he'll still. He did a thing on one of the might have been BBC, where he was training with Paddy McGuinness, and they got to the pool. Of course, because Eddie's been an Olympic swimmer and still uses swimming as part of his cardio, he basically just jumped in with a load of other swimmers and off. Still, even at the size he's at, absolutely motored away, and he got to the end of the pool and back by the time Paddy had got to the end of the first length.
That's impressive because he's not exactly streamlined, is he?
No, he's just rectangular.
A brick with arms.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Excuse me.
I saw it when he didn't he do record-breaking deadlift?
Yeah, 500 kilos.
Yeah, that's just...
I mean, even for that, he what he basically did, in his training, he'd only got as far as I think 440-ish was like the best he'd managed to lift in all of his training and the run up to it. And he basically got sports scientists and biomechanic engineers and just everyone that he possibly could get involved. He got them involved and basically just sat them all down together and went, "How can I do this?" And he was getting all blood work done and absolutely everything to see what he could do to get his body up to there. And he ended up with it was a psychiatrist and someone else, and what they basically did is put him into a mental state, or it conditioned him to be able to switch it into a fight or flight response to massively increase all his all the hormones and everything. So he just before the lift, he went and psyched himself up, got into this frame of mind, just walked out, and in his head, what he was doing, he wasn't picking up a weight, he was pulling someone off his kids. So in his head, there is no option, I have to lift this up.
Yeah.
And it just went past the red lines, his blood coming out of his nose. He basically he stood up with the bar, and he sort of realized he was stood up with it, looked around, placed it down, and then collapsed. And he'd ruptured all sorts of stuff, and they sort of stood him back up, came and unhooked him and everything, stuck oxygen straight on him and took him out. He basically said he'd gone blind for about 18 hours because he just ruptured everything. All the blood vessels had just gone. And he was convinced that was the end of Eddie Hall, but it took him a good few weeks to recover, just to sort of get back to functioning human.
Yeah, you can see that it was a different person that came out from behind the curtain when.
Oh yeah.
On if you actually ever see the lift.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind, he was that the second time he'd done that lift? Because one time he'd broken one record, hadn't he, and then realised he dropped the bar rather than put it down.
That was 468, I think it was. That was the previous record. It was a big jump to go from the previous record, 460 something, to straight to the 500. Because that was the whole thing in the run up to it when he'd done that. Because he broke one record, and then the following year, because he'd messed the lift up, and it was because it was a competition lift, you had to place the bar back down. And because he'd picked it up and he just sort of realised he'd done it, he was like, yeah, dropped the bar, and then it was disqualified. So he came back the following year, did the lift, got the record, and at that point he basically went to the promoters then and said, you know, we're at like 460. What will you give me if I hit 500? Because that's like a big jump. Normally, like for years before, it would be 1 or 2 or maybe 3 kilo jump.
Yeah.
And for such a big jump, he basically just named a figure, and the promoters went, "Yeah, go for it. Yeah, if you can pick 500, we'll give you that." So he went, "All right," shook on it, walked away. Said, "Next year I will come and do that." And they were just laughing. But he basically, what he did, he went and got a mate of his to go and put a large amount of money on him, betting on him doing the lift, and then went and did it. That's why he said he's basically just set for life based on that bet. So financially secure from basically nearly killing yourself.
Yeah, there's not many people that got boxing ring in a room in their house, is it?
No.
Don't think any room in my house is big enough for a boxing ring.
And a cryotherapy chamber and a oxygen therapy chamber. You know, they just pump pure oxygen through. He goes and has a nap. Goes and has a nap in a hyperbaric chamber every day after 4 hours of training or whatever, and it's just like unreal. Every bit of kit you can get, he's got. It's nuts.
Just needs on those baths that they've got in the movie Wanted, because I mean that they fix everything, don't they? The baths they lay in,
with the wax floating on top.
I tried to watch that actually the other day, and you know what? I couldn't do it. I don't know why. I used to think that film was great, and I just could not get into it.
Yeah, I haven't watched it for a while, but I remember it. I think the memory of it is probably going to be better than rewatching the film.
But he's got all that stuff, but has he got a workshop?
Well, he used to be. He was a truck mechanic. That was his day job. He was a diesel mechanic for HGVs. So they used to take the piss, and he just like hold the truck up while he's fixing it.
Yeah. I'm just gonna. Do you mind if I take your spare tyres on the old shoulder? But that's something else though with these strongman competitions. This one that happened this year, I mean, some of the weights were ridiculous and the medleys were ridiculous. But I remember the years gone by where in competition they put the weights up and then did the Icelandic stones. So these little stones that weigh 150 kilos and people couldn't get their kind of hands round them, and you were lifting them above your head. One poor bloke dropped it on his face, I do remember. And then he went on and carried on picking the rest of them up, like kind of everything a bit mushed. It's the only way you can put it. But to be honest, not all of them were particularly good looking anyway. But he could have done them a favour.
It certainly was. He probably wouldn't have noticed it until afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was one of the old things. I think it was in like the mid-90s or something, where I think it was when they were like throwing the concrete bags or throwing the sandbags or something, and one of them just came straight back down and hit some dude in the face.
Do you remember arm wrestling?
I can remember a few times when they were kind of quite significant injury. I'm pretty sure there was a guy who broke his arm on one of the events.
There was an arm wrestling one that someone broke their arm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jeff Capes tore. What did he tore? That might have been bicep against John Paul Sigmarsson. That would have been like 81, 82, something.
Do you remember the people wheelbarrow race? You'd pick up a wheelbarrow that have a load of seats on it, and people will be sitting on it, and you can't see where you're going. Up it goes, and kind of run with it.
I was thinking the sort of thing you used to do in primary school, where you kind of one person grabs your ankles and you've got to kind of pedal with your arms. Yeah.
That would be cool.
God, can you imagine? Yeah, it's just like tag team strongman.
Yeah.
Well, because they do the team events, don't they? Where they'll do a team deadlift. And you'll have like the Stoltman brothers will be doing a deadlift together, or you'll have, I think Mark Felix and Terry Hollands lifted together, and they try and match the heights.
A few years ago, I started watching quite a lot of stuff about kind of CrossFit. I knew a few people that were into kind of CrossFit. I started watching some of the kind of the competition stuff for that, and that's quite fascinating because some of that there's individual stuff, and they've also, they've got events where basically every CrossFit box will kind of monitor you doing certain workouts, and then your results get put onto a kind of global database. But then they've got the competitions, and you've got individual kind of rounds, but you also then get team rounds, and it's quite interesting kind of watching kind of the approaches to that and how fit some of those guys are. It's just phenomenal.
There was a video appeared on Reddit a couple of years back now from one of those competitions, and it's taken in isolation. So it was one of those where you'd had 8 or 10 events over the course of the morning sort of thing. And what they basically showed was the last event, which was like a 200-meter sprint or something. And they showed it was a high camera view of the whole of all 10 or 12 people or whatever it was. And as they were running that last sprint, there was a camera guy running down along the side to get the side film, and he came third. While holding the full camera rig, and so of course everyone was taking the piss, like, oh my god, it comes to a CrossFit event and the camera guys come third with carrying the whole kit, and then it was all explained that this is like people at the end of the day when they're absolutely exhausted. He's fresh out the gate sort of thing. But it was just a brilliant little clip to see in isolation, just to see all these runners absolutely pelting down and then the camera guy getting third.
I might need to look these up at some point then, because CrossFit's clearly not what I thought CrossFit was.
I mean, it's all the stuff you're told not to do in the gym.
Functional fitness in some ways. It's like don't. I mean, they do use bell bars and the like, but
you just get the bad rap.
Yeah, it's also like, oh right, okay, here's a tractor tire. Start flipping that, or carrying sandbags rather than.
They're just strongman.
Yeah,
they're strongman things.
Yeah, I'd like to give the super yoke a go. Everything I don't fancy doing any of the other strongmen, but I fancy giving the super yoke a go.
What hex bar farmers carry? What about that?
No, was it the Citroen Saxo? And you stood inside it, but I remember the year they did that. I think it was the year that Phil Pfister won it in America, and it took about 10 minutes to get him in it because of it being so tall and so wide for his shoulders. I think Jimmy Marcoux was even in it that year. But I went to Butlins one year and stayed there for the week to watch the British Strongman filmed. And unfortunately, I'd never go and see a strongman event ever done again. There was just so much setup time, as you can imagine, because not normal people can move these things particularly easily.
Yeah,
but, it was great to it was great to see and talk to the strongmen. Although the funniest thing was Terry Hollands in his big estate had just pulled this train. He climbs out from the train track, climbs out of camera view, and lights a Super King king size, and almost in one inhalation this thing just went. He's kind of looked across and I'm standing there in shock, and he goes, "You're right there." I said, "How?" I said, "You're fighting for air." He said, "It's the first thing your brain screams for. So no matter what event you've ever done," he said, "you'll always see those that smoke walk around out of camera shot." He said, "And have a fag."
You can't even imagine that they could function at that level and be smokers.
Well, I don't think he won it that year, but it was certainly interesting to see. But one of the nicest ones out of the UK ones that I met though was Lawrence Charlet. Really diamond bloke he was.
Doesn't surprise me.
But it was good. I went to go and mainly see Darren Sadler because we're the same height, and he'd damaged his bicep. So the day I got there, he was with his family, and I kind of thought, do you know what? He's rather than bother him to say kind of hi, I'll wait. I'll see him next week. That was the day he was going home because he didn't make the final because of a damaged bicep. So I was like, But that bloke was huge.
Again, just another rectangle.
Yeah, for a bloke who was 5'9". But I remember the days of he was someone. Well, I say unfair. It's down to height. Everything's got to suit everybody. Most of them are tall, so therefore the apparatus are tall. But him practically having to put a Atlas stone on his shoulder and jump to try and get it. The only one that was easy for him to get on was the one that was colossal in weight, because in those days they went down in height. Now they're all the same height, and it gets but the stones get heavier.
Yeah. I think like Brian Shaw and people like that, isn't it? You know, he's 6'10" and £400. You know, it's just it completely different scale of creature. You know, not human scale humans.
Yeah.
Doesn't even bear thinking about it.
But my problem is I don't look particularly big here, but my shoulders are very wide, and I struggle to get into shirts that even say are large. And you start going any bigger than that, and they fit me like a dress. Yeah, except for the stomach, they get the stomach in still. So I couldn't get back into weightlifting unless Mr. James here could make a big shirt that fits, and otherwise I'd look silly.
One my size.
Yeah, but it needs to fit the shoulders, and then kind of a nice V torso as I aim for what I'm going to get this year.
Do you have to learn to sew and watch one of Ellen's videos on adjusting t-shirts to fit? Because she's done a couple of those.
Leather bracing all the way around it. It looked more like a straitjacket as it's like zipping it and pulling it all back in.
Well, as Mr. Multi, Dr. Multi, sorry, has said in the chat there of stupid sexy Flanders, you know, you go the old Simpsons route and just put all the big binder clips on your back to pull everything tight again.
Oh man, what was that? Was one of the Star Wars? I'm gonna get slapped for that. Star Trek movies. Do you remember that? There was the bloke who had the weird looking face, and they'd every so often he'd go into it and it'd cut all the skin and pull it tighter on his face. It was an awful Star Wars film. I've done it again. Star Trek film. I'm waiting for the abuse to start appearing in the comments for getting it wrong.
Andy did it the other way, didn't he? Saying about Star Trek and meaning Star Wars.
They weren't Romulans. It was. I remember them building something that looked like that James Webb Telescope is what they were trying to build, or something like that. I struggled with all the newer ones. I remember they killed one of the guys who was like working behind the scenes to help these bad guys out, and then they actually stuck him in the machine, and that killed him.
I think this might not be one I've seen then.
Come on, Rasmus, you're going to know which Star Trek film this is. I'm waiting to see him. He knows everything when it comes to TV and films or book, and it's getting hot in here again. It doesn't help. I've got this like nuclear fusion thing under the desk here, pumping out heat, and I'll push the door to this evening, which is a bit of a mistake.
Well, you will buy these AMD PCs.
Well, it's fine. I've got that nuclear fusion cooler on it. Actually, running.
Rasmus has never watched Star Trek.
It's all right. Because of Save the Day. It's Insurrection. I think Insurrection might be the one I've seen. That might be one I have seen. That's next gen, I think.
Yeah, I think it's one I haven't seen.
Oh, there it is.
Mm.
My processor's only at 58 degrees. Graphics card sitting at 30 at the minute, but
it's just showing off.
Oh no, that thing used to get really hot, so I liquid cooled it. Didn't liquid cool the graphics, the processor though.
Yeah, I've gone the other way though.
Yeah, but I had the room in my case for the that Noctua cooler. Not many cases can fit that thing in it. It's huge. I really need to 3D print something or make a metal bracket that comes off the front of the case just to hold it. Because I'm waiting to hear a snap one day and everything go quiet as the graphics card motherboard just snaps in half, and I can't handle it.
So let's see if I think nothing about this. There's some graphics card like adjustable support things that you can get. For the obviously now the original design of PCs were when graphics cards were small and sensibly sized, whereas now they're bigger than most cases.
Yeah.
But it's a screw thread, kind of like a little acro prop basically that would unscrew and you put it under the corner. But there's loads of those type of things.
I'd like to build a
machine
year. One day, a bit like kind of not just kind of like buy the bits and put them together into a case, but something like DIY Perks.
Matt does some good stuff.
Did Matt Perks? Yes, where it's kind of literally right. I'm going to make a table, and I'm going to build the computer into the table with all this sort of really fancy cooling system. And
I have done a PC and a desk many years ago.
Or kind of open on a wall. I reckon that would be quite cool.
I was going to say
one of those there.
It was a bit of a weird shot because it's the first thing you see when you walk into your office, isn't it? It's pretty much that on the wall.
Yeah. That was I had a piece of 15mm plywood, and is it 15? It was a non-standard size, non-standard thickness of plywood that my mate gave me, and I needed a PC to run my laser cutter or laser engraver, so I thought, sod it, I'll do that and I'll put it on a French cleat, because why the hell not? But again, that's not the first time I've done a PC on a board either. Got one out of my other workshop.
Well ventilated.
Yeah. And easy to just poke and prod and take parts off. And
just remember to turn it off.
All my stuff stays on all the time anyway. You know that.
Yeah. Do you remember the days of when they used to put the tiny little fans on the BIOS, and you could almost guarantee you'd hear that whole, and then eventually you hear
that was always on the North Bridge.
You'd always have to. One of my old cases I used to leave so I could tap the case, and the case would pop off, and you just tap that fan, and it'd just go back to being silent. Case back on.
It's down to the particular type of bearings. I've got the axial fans that are supposed to be run that way, so that the bearings work. Whereas if you lay them down, the bearings dry out basically.
Well, that's the fan that's on the Atom Stack Pro laser. When I turn that on, the fan on top gives that whole. But the problem is, there's a case on the top of it, so you can't poke it. You have to just sit there and put up with it for the few minutes until it stops.
You can take them off, and usually there's a sticker on the back, and you can peel that sticker off and put a dab of mineral oil in, and that'll just relube the bearing, and it'll be fine for another 3 months or so.
Is that the same as 3-in-1?
Yeah, 3-in-1.
That's fine, because I've got that sitting literally just above that machine. I know that because when I was changing the windows, it fell off.
I have it on good authority that stuff doesn't taste particularly nice.
Does that work without knowing the story behind it, or do we just have to take that?
My mate, my old business partner, he decided he quite liked due south growing up. So he has this sort of same mentality of like, that's interesting, that smells funny, I wonder what it tastes like. And sort of tried a taste of the oil, and then that tastes really, really weird. And then tried another little bit, and another little bit, and another little bit, and then felt unwell for a few hours, weirdly enough.
Okay.
I'm sure we've all had face full of WD-40 when the straw's kind of blown off.
I try to not use that stuff. I can't stand the smell of it. It's one of those things I want to cut my hands off if I get WD-40 on my hands. I'd rather petrol or diesel any day. Well, actually, petrol tends to not smell. Diesel lingers, but
that used to be sort of standard practice for me when I'd go and do some like hydraulic stuff with my brothers. Like servicing a tail lift.
Hydraulic oil as well. That's vile.
But not just that, you like road shit and all sorts of like crap all over your hands. Like 6 or 12 months worth of accumulated dirt on a piece of equipment. So the quickest and easiest way of cleaning your hands, my brother would just say, "Oh yeah, just spray it with WD-40. That gets all the grease off." So you just end up using WD-40 like soap because there isn't anywhere to wash your hands.
The worst one is when you need to clean your hands. It's freezing cold, and the only thing you've got is extra grit Swarfiga, and you know it's going to hurt.
Find all the cuts.
Well, it's not just that. When your hands are freezing cold, you're kind of trying to gingerly rub at your hands, but knowing full well it's going to be ludicrously painful.
Yep.
But I got a bit of a shock once when a job we were on, and these guys turned up to lay a driveway for us, and they were sitting there and I was giving them a hand to kind of shovel everything out, and I said, "Oh, it's sticking like made crazy." "Oh, so I throw some diesel on it." "You what?" And it took me a moment to realise, no, look, grabs a bit of red diesel out of the bag and just throws it on it, and there you go. Off you go. Just don't do it over the driveway, otherwise it'll put a hole in the driveway. Yeah. And just like, shit off a shovel now. It was just, it's a bit of a shock. I thought you'd just warm the shovel up or something and off it'd go, but
it's basically just a heavy oil, isn't it? Well, a light oil, I suppose.
Was it light oil is what your vehicle's classed as on the... Is it light oil? says something in your V5 of when you drive a diesel.
That's basically what it is. I mean, I suppose it's all separated out of crude anyway, isn't it? It's just a different.
I got a bit of a shock one day when they found out that they run ships on near on tar, and all the tanks are heated to keep it liquid. So when they're filling the ships up, and on this particular bit as they were showing you, a pipe split and it fired it onto the deck. And when about 10 minutes later, you're seeing these guys going along with shovels, pickaxes, and literally beating it off the deck. So that was a bit odd.
Interesting. Yeah, that's quite. I figured it was just kind of just slightly heavier diesel, but didn't think it would be kind of that thick.
It was years ago, although I think Duncan said the other day they were running and was on gas or diesel, and then everything turned to electric and ran that way.
Yeah, steam generators, I think. If he hadn't just done some silly stuff, then he'd probably jump in with what it has. Yeah, next time we get Duncan on, we need to just make sure we steer clear of plumbing and central heating. And I think I'll be well clear of that topic as well. I think.
Yeah, I always want to know who still uses nails.
I have some. They can be useful sometimes.
Only for when you kind of flatten the end off and use it as a like a nail punch. I suppose then you're using it for nails. I suppose you use it for pins. That's a bit different.
Talking of
pin nailers.
Flattening, have you guys seen that that video that's been doing the rounds recently about the difference between forged nails and the more modern nails, cut nails versus rolly, tubey,
wire,
round head pan nails, round head wire nails. Sorry, that's it.
Wire nails versus cut nails.
I thought cut nails were only used for floorboarding, isn't it?
Well, so this is the interesting thing. The video in question, I forget who it was, but I'll find the link and put it in the page of my flip.
Yeah.
It's saying about the square point, or the square end of a cut nail, breaks the fibers in the wood, so it's less likely to split when you get near the end of the board. Yeah. Whereas a wire nail, because it's a taper with a cut point, it is more likely to split the board because it spreads the fibers. So
one of the things you can do with that is turn your nail before you use it. Turn the nail upside down and just tap the
end. So that was exactly it. Was to because that's a tip that everyone over the age of 40 knows from when wire nails became a thing. And yeah, younger folks won't know that, and will just resort to pre-drilling all their wire nails or whatever. Yeah, I just found it quite interesting. It's quite nice.
I'm lucky I haven't laid floorboards in a long time, so I haven't used them.
Yeah, I think I have a bag of nails somewhere, but I avoid them like the plague.
I tell you what, I tend to, unless we don't have any decorative floorboards, and we've only got floorboards upstairs. It's solid floors downstairs. But in our last few houses, again, we've never gone for we'll have sanded floorboards look. We've always had carpets down, and where I've had to do things, access points for plumbing and whatever, I've screwed it down. The number of times I've had to do what Duncan's doing at the moment, for the benefit of those who aren't in the mix, he's having to sort out some plumbing issues related to his central heating, which is involving taking out floorboards and changing pipe, etc. When I've had to do that in the past, I've generally gone back and gone, these nails that have been used to wreck the ends of these floorboards, I think I'll just kind of find the joist and put some screws in. Takes a bit longer, but it makes life so much easier when you're then trying to lift it back up again in the future.
The whole of my upstairs is cable floor, so I don't have a choice.
This is where I'm going to be sort of making these similar choices soon. So looking at doing sorting the loft out for storage, because it's just on the joists at the minute. But of course, it's an old house. It's 1900s, early 1900s. And all the joists, the ceiling joists that are up in the loft, they're all higgledy-piggledy, so you can't just lay the boards down. So yeah, I need to have a nosy at what's the best plan and what, digging back into span tables and all that kind of nonsense that I've avoided for a while.
I put down, when I've boarded the loft here, I put extra timbers in.
Did you screw them on top of
level.
the existing?
Yeah.
Or did you
and
put
again,
them
we
to
had
the
mix, so I found the sort of the strong ones and then packed to the kind of ones that are slightly odd sized. So screwed in just big ass screws.
Well, that's what I started doing originally when we first started.
Obviously looking for where any wiring is and thinking about access to kind of light fittings and the like. But then packed it in, and then there's, you're not squashing down insulation and things either, and it raises things up. So around the kind of
for modern building regs now, you're supposed to have 270 mil of insulation in the loft.
Yeah.
So I was sort of considering options, and I'm half tempted to stick new joists in to the sides of the existing ceiling joists, stick more modern.
One option that's available now, and I don't think it was available when I did the boarding in the loft here. You can get rises, a bit like
loft legs.
So a bit like you can get for like doing shed bases, and you just put some kind of slabs down or some concrete pillars, and then you've got these big plastic risers. You can get like the loft leg type things. You can get a variety of those now.
Yeah.
So you can then kind of go, okay, well I want 270 mil of insulation, and this thing will be enough, and then you just put either I think you can put boards straight over the top, or whether you have to put
you can
kind of joists down first.
22s, and you can as long as you've got 22 mil boards, you can just go straight on. So,
I find the best time to put insulation in is before you put the roof on. You don't have to get in then, you just squeeze it between the rafters, and while you're standing on the scaffolding, just push it out.
Well, so this was the consideration, because there's already, I think it's about probably 7,500 mil of really old shit in there. So I think I could
proper fiberglass.
Oh yeah,
proper stuff.
Yellowy brown, horrible, nasty. Everything is
looking at it.
Near it. Yeah. So I was thinking, I could do the sensible thing and rip all that out and remove some fittings and like rubbish, or I could just throw a load of other, non-itchy stuff on top. Throw like another 100 mil on top, stick some 100 mil joists in, and then stick some loft legs in, and then cross insulate it with another 170. So then I get the full like 270.
What way do the timbers run in your house, front to back?
Yeah.
Could you get a scaffold tower, go up to the front of your house, and peel back the tiles, peel back the felt, and just slide everything in, including?
I can get into the loft.
Yeah, but for the size of timber to go round the stairs and up into the loft, would you not be only dealing with, say, 1,200 mil sections?
No, because what we do want to put in is a new loft hatch, because it's a little stupid one in like a little annex above the stairs. I want to stick a proper thing in with a ladder and everything on the landing, so I could at least go up the stairs into here, and then go straight up from there. So I could actually at least probably get some 2.4 meter by 6 maybe. Get some decent boards in instead of the usual crap.
Options. What you got to think about. Obviously, you can cut the hole, but you'll probably want to fasten the ladder to the top of the new surface.
Yeah.
So you'll have to board it out before you can install the loft ladder.
That's what makes it more fun. Just balancing on top of a set of stairs and.
Well, so it did that. Like last time I fitted a loft ladder, would have been 2007, 2008 maybe. Back when I lived up in the northwest in Haydock, and it was again the same guy who drank the mineral oil. He helped me do it, and he was in my old flat, so he was up in the loft, and he'd kind of fixed everything down.
I take it you had the top floor. This isn't your neighbour's room. You just went up through the floor.
Yes, so it was the top floor of the building. It was above a hairdresser's.
Oh, okay.
It's basically, friend's dad owned the building and just sort of said, yeah, do whatever, pay me 60 quid a week for rent or whatever. And so I ran my IT business out there. So we put in 300 odd meters of Ethernet cable and completely converted the loft and put all the IT kit, all the servers and everything up in the loft. But in doing all that kind of thing, it was cutting in. So the chimney breast had been leaking as well. So the whole thing was just jet black. So we had to sort all that out. But when we put the loft ladder in, we cut the hatch in, and he got up there into the loft once we'd sort of got everything set enough for him to get up there and screw everything from the top on a standard standing ladder. Shifted that out of the way, put the proper loft ladder in. And then we realised when we brought it down, it wasn't the right height, so he couldn't get back down from the loft. So he's then still stuck up there. We couldn't then put another ladder in the way for him to get down. We had to trim that to the right length. So I'm then there cutting. We had to guess the length at this point, or guess the point where I needed to cut this wooden ladder. So I had to cut a chunk off, and then we test it. Now cut another chunk off, and then test. No, that doesn't. So he was up there going, Jay, I really need a wee now. And I'm there, absolutely sweating buckets, roasting, middle of summer, as he is, because he's sat up in the loft. As I'm there, like just hacking the crap out of this to try and get the thing. It took about 5 or 6 cuts to actually get it to the right height, so he could then walk down the ladder and then
run to the toilet.
Yeah, pretty much. Just slid down the ladder and straight in. Yeah.
At least he didn't go for one of the water tanks.
Wouldn't be so bad in the heating one.
Yeah.
Duncan might be upset.
Yeah, until you come to bleed the radiators. Yeah.
That's fine. That's a bit of that inhibitor.
Natural heating inhibitor, yeah. It's mildly acidic, yeah. It's an acidic flush.
Right, so since you're talking about projects, I came up with a little idea.
Okay.
Is to get a pad and a pen, or pencil, since I think that's what Andy's already holding.
Yep.
Turn around slowly on your chair and write down the first 10 unfinished or unstarted projects that you see, and that's your to-do list. Scrap all the other to-do lists.
Piss off.
Oh, I thought that was a good idea. I was standing in, as Andy and I have both been doing today, kind of sorting out workshop spaces, and I'm standing in there going, why have I got so much stuff in here? Is it tools? Is it? And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, okay, I've got a window laying on the workbench at the moment. That's about to go into that hole, so that's not that problem. I've got that and that. And then, as I sent that picture earlier on, the Squirtle that I think the first proper thing I 3D printed. He's still bright blue as bright blue filament. Mm-hmm. Yes, I've cleared it all out, and now it works as a. See, Duncan likes the idea. And
yeah, you can do it then.
Yeah, but he's sitting with floorboards up and kind of pipes everywhere.
True.
But that's only one thing that you can see that's not finished.
In fairness, if I turn around and pick the first 10 things, they're probably still on the list anyway.
But in my case, it would have been if I could fix. I think I counted 10 things, and that's when I got bored counting. I don't even need to turn around.
You ran out of fingers and didn't want to unzip your fly.
I've got a room in front of me with a pile of stuff that still needs doing.
I'm quite lucky. I can just about see over this monitor, and I see a wall. I've got another 2 monitors there with a 3D print on the top of it, which I can't comment on. And none of the stuff over there is mine. So actually, this is the best room for me to do this in. If I turn around, I think all I've got is. Oh, I need to finish this Goonies thing. Which again, that's that bright blue filament. That's that cheap, nasty stuff of Amazon, and it still prints well. However old that is. And I'm just looking around. Just look down. But what a great way of working out whether or not what you've got taking up your space is junk. Is it too many tools, or is it just all unfinished stuff? And the more I was looking at it, I was just thinking, I've got stuff in here to finish stuff. So even though it's not necessarily part of a project, it's there for a project. Or to make a project easier, or it's to make a jig to make a project. And the more I was looking around thinking, actually, at least I know the way I've gone down that route, it's not too many tools. although I had this conversation with you a while ago, Andy, wasn't it? It was a case of, is the problem collecting tools, or is that the hobby? Is actually the hobby, looking at you as well here, James, is collecting tools the hobby, rather than is making
Was it
things
collecting
the hobby?
hobbies is the hobby?
Oh, sorry, yes.
And the hobbies need tools.
Yeah. And I was getting worried at one point that the more I looked around, it was just new stuff or newish stuff. And I'm like, well, I still haven't really used that. I used that for a minute and then tried to upgrade it because I didn't buy the good thing, which I should have bought in the first place, and broke it. So yes, that's the CNC still sitting there with the new controller sitting inside the CNC cabinet, waiting for me to redo it all. I need to make it do this. So I have, yeah, exactly. And I was just, the more I was looking around thinking, and now I've got timber in here that's to go into the CNC to, while I learn to use it and learn to see what it can do, and looking around and going, it was starting to get almost scary. I'm thinking, well, I can't make the workshop any bigger. And I then opened the garage.
I find it quite fascinating. I don't know if you've listened to Workshop Banter with Keith Brown and Matt Smith, Badger Workshop, or if you've seen Badger's most recent video. He's just moved house. Well, a few weeks ago, he moved house, and pretty much because of how he was going to be moving and to save money, he sold nearly all of his tools. So he kept some crates of hand tools, but all his power tools, bar I think he probably kept like cordless drills. Impact
Man,
grinders.
I'd have given him a shout for his table saw.
But he pretty much sold all of his table saws because he had multiple band saws. I think he kept one drill press that he's it's a Startrite or something, old and needs renewing, and he's basically just like got rid of benches. Everything has gone. So then he's going to he moved, which he did with one van, one kind of not removals van, but just a regular, I don't know, Luton or whatever, and it's like, let's start from scratch. Just goes right, just that all. And I kind of think the mental strength to be able to do that is phenomenal. I couldn't. I mean, it would take too long to sell everything anyway, and half the stuff isn't worth anything. But it's useful, and there's that kind of the thing that I keep going back to, because we've had this kind of conversational versions of it many times now, and we've had this conversation online. It's that kind of it's that, for me, there's the element of the thought of wasting something. It's just it breaks me, to be honest. Sometimes the idea that I know. I mean, we've discussed before. I've got to get rid of one of my sheds. And we've been talking. My wife and I have been talking this past couple of days about kind of what we'll probably do is get a garden store, not a full size shed, not a walk-in, but just something big enough to take all the garden tools: the mower, the trimmers, the shredder, the spades and rakes and things like that, and possibly maybe the smaller set of steps we've got.
Andy, I can think of a much better way of dealing with all of that.
Concrete the garden.
Concrete front to back.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about it then.
It's a viable approach. I'm not sure that my garden-loving wife would be quite so enamoured with it.
See, I thought you were going to go with the dog, but rather than the wife. But
you can get you one of those as well. It's fine.
Sell the current one.
Maybe don't stick her on Facebook Marketplace yet.
Or go for the Astro. That's good for the environment. Just think of all the wasted electricity and no petrol needed to cut it. Apparently, that's not how you try and get people on side for the Astro.
So my sister-in-law, who thankfully isn't going to listen to this, so won't slap me next time I say it, but she has been known to go out and vacuum her AstroTurf.
My mother-in-law has this. I've not seen it being used, but it's apparently got two bristle brushes that spin round to fire everything into a hungry hole. Because she followed us down the route, and I sweep mine occasionally when I'm trying to get the leaves off of it, because you can't really rake it. And by the way, I have no trees. just everything around me is trees. And she goes around and kind of uses this thing. Occasionally, I've looked at it and thought, yeah, could be tempted to borrow it, but my garden's nowhere near as big as hers. So, but then that spins round to the other thing I wrote down. It was it was a messy workshop, a sign of hoarding. But I think we've answered that question. So.
Yeah, I don't want to feel too attacked here.
It was while I was trying to tidy it, and as I say, I finished installing the windows, and when I was then in my garage looking through the hoarded timber that I hadn't thrown away, trying to find something suitable to either mill down and use as trim to go around the edges, and then ended up using what basically was TNG, with a little curve as a detail at the top, and then went, make that use. And this is why I can't get rid of my table saw. I don't use it very often, but the times I use it, I was taking that much off this timber, and that's probably 10 mil. Good luck trying to safely do that with a. Bearing in mind also these were 2.4 meters long, trying to safely line up and do that with a rip saw quickly. So I just ran all of this through it in a matter of minutes. It took me probably longer to make sure that I still had my 10 fingers and 2 thumbs, and I'm from Sussex.
Yeah, fair point.
and whenever I seem to be using my table saw, I'm either using it to its fullest width, or I'm using the entire length of the workshop with it out the door to start with, as it feeds in and goes all the way through.
Yeah, and you're either taking a tiny amount off or all of it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. Well, I've already bought it. I'm never going to get the money back on it, because I think everyone's now realised that the Axminster TS250 Mark II is just as bad as the first one. Hence, they scrapped that whole idea completely and redesigned it for the new Craft series. Because no matter what you try and do to modifications to gather dust, the best thing for it is actually the air purifier thingy that hangs from the ceiling that Dandel sold me. That's the best way of catching dust out of that thing. Turn it onto full bore and just run stuff through it while trying to catch it at source. It just doesn't work. But it kind of messes things up.
I think the messy workshop hoarder might be a discussion again for some other time though. Well, I think
that might have to be
one of
the group sessions.
Yeah.
Have another intervention like we did with Steve last time.
But as Cuz just says in the chat, better to have something and not need it than to need it and not have it.
Well, if worst case, I mean, most of today actually it had a chop saw on it.
Chop saw or a mug of coffee.
Yeah, the coffee I drank far too much coffee today. Actually, it was just that right level of cold where I was comfortable, but you still certainly needed to keep putting coffee in.
So, talking of coffee, we did a trip to Tesco the other day and had a look in the reduced section, and they were getting rid of the like super heavy gingerbread cream from the Christmas period because it expired on the 6th of January, so they were getting rid of it for like 10p or something. That is particularly good in a coffee.
I can imagine.
We normally get the Bailey's cream at this time of year.
I still can't
just
do
have
Bailey's.
A couple of days of really fancy coffees, but it's just gingerbread one.
I got alcohol poisoning on my 17th birthday, and Bailey's was part of that evening, and I still can't do the smell of it. Can't go anywhere near it. Just the thought generally of it is enough to set me off. Good way to get alcohol poisoning on. A good way to bring in your 17th. But I'd worked in a pub at the time, and I didn't touch alcohol till my 18th. But the smell of it, and the chefs there used to really enjoy cooking steak and ale pie. And they'd cook it, and then in the area that I'd be working, they'd stick it behind me as close as they could actually get it to me without it being in my way. And just the aroma out of it, I'm sitting there going white. As I'm washing dishes in those days, sitting there going, don't feel so good. Don't feel so good. Bastards.
Well, I mean, it's certainly had an impact, a long-lasting effect on your desire for cane and the alcohol, hasn't it?
I think since then I've probably got drunk 5 times in my entire life, and one of them was my friend's 30th. Yeah, I got up at 6 to go to work the next day and could hardly walk, so I had to call my sister to come pick me up, and she took me to work. I was running a fishery in those days, so don't worry, I wasn't heavy machinery or anything.
I was going to say it wasn't, forklifts and heavy machinery. Yeah.
No. God, I was not good after his birthday. I actually kind of partially put it down to the fact I didn't eat anything until 10 o'clock, and I don't think my burger was cooked properly. It was literally the last one as they were trying to pack up. And I had also drunk too much.
It might have been that 14th pint you had.
Oh no,
it might have been a dodgy pint.
No, the problem was I was on double vodka Red Bulls until I drank all their Red Bull, and then I went on to cider. Yeah, I went to. I'd have been 18 by the time I went to Spain, and in Benidorm at the time they were selling a drink called Viagra. It's a pint glass where they would put 2 cans of, I think it was either 1 or 2 cans of Red Bull in it, then they'd fill the rest up with vodka and then put a shot of blue aftershock in it, so that stayed as a blue ring at the top. And we some strange people that I met, we had a race to see how many you could down. Jeez. I was the only one left standing, and at which point I've gone yes and turned around as a strobe went off in the club, and I went I was fine until the strobe.
Like resetting an prom.
Yeah, God.
That's
a niche joke.
Yeah, I got it. Don't worry. Show my age again.
Everything gets fixed by a Control-Alt-Delete.
Control-Shift-Escape now. I still get this all the time at work. No, just Control-Alt-Delete it. No, Control-Alt-Delete hasn't been the major way to bring up Task Manager for...
Really? Oh, of course, no. It brings up a list of options now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So Control-Alt-Delete goes straight to Task Manager now, does it?
No, Control-Shift-Escape.
Sorry.
It just brings Task Manager straight back up. That's the key for that.
Oh. Is it still doing Windows 11?
That's been since Windows Vista? So 2005, 2006?
Did I ever have Vista? I stayed with ME for a long time because I like the fact that with all the newer systems, you could still access newer hard drives through it might have been XP actually.
Yeah,
it somehow it bypassed everything. Oh no, Vista was the first one that kind of looked pretty.
Yeah, but it was shit.
Oh, I
bag of shit. In 2000, I want to say 2006 because it was 2002 that XP came out.
Year was my daughter born?
4-year cycle.
2006 she was born. No, I would have been using it at about then. Or was that when the other daughter was born? I was using it when I had a baby.
Yeah, that was when they shifted it from Control-Alt-Delete. So
I know I never used Windows 7.
Back in the day. Yeah, 7 was great.
Never used 7. See, Kieran agrees with me. XP was a great OS.
It was, yeah. But 2002.
Yeah.
20 years ago that was out.
Jesus, that makes me feel older than the fact I've got a 15-year-old.
I still remember, because I was in college studying IT at that point, and
you're making Andy and I feel ill, you bastard. Ill? Old, even. Old.
Yeah, so I'd have been 16 then, when XP came out, and I remember one of the guys I was on a PC building course with gave me a copy of XP, dodgy copy, and I can still remember that the second block on the key for that, because it's a 25 character key, and it was RHQQ2. It's the second block of the key for that. Microsoft blocked that key in like 2003, but it's just burned in there 19 years later. You know, it was still in use.
When I was a very young lad, I bought a copy of Windows 98 off of a guy who lived with a guy who sold me my computer for like a 4-pack of Heineken or something like that. And in the time it took me to go down the 3 flights of steps to the Threshers that was at the bottom, buy it, come back up, he'd burnt it for me, written up the code on the disc, and kind of handed it to me. And I actually only threw that away the other day. I was going through a CD wallet and found it in there. Well, I remember the first time I was trying to install it, and I was like, "Oh crap! Where did he put the key?" And I remember sitting, I must have written it down somewhere, and then realizing no, it was on the damn disk.
Yeah, which of course is the stupidest place you could possibly put it.
Yeah, and he had the most horrific handwriting. It took me probably 6 attempts to get it right. With trying to write it down and thinking, well, it could be that, or it could be that, and then you typing it away. And shoot, which one? I did the top one, right? Line through that one. Okay, the next one, right? Line through that. And after that, it went into the jewel case with the written down. But saying the jewel cases, I remember with the early days of Nero burning CD-ROM. You could sit there if you'd made an audio CD, and you could sit there and you could print the CD label from it. You could print the jewel case, and you folded it in the right place, and you could make up all the jewel case.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you're one of the people who had a LightScribe disk burner and actually used LightScribe disks with it, you could even burn. You could flip the disk over in the drive and use the laser
to
disk. Engrave the disk. Yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
LightScribe discs were about 5 times the price of a normal disc, so nobody bothered.
That is cool, though.
I had a LightScribe optical drive for probably 10 years and never once used it. Never once bought LightScribe discs. You couldn't buy them in the shops. They were a nightmare to get hold of, and they were more expensive.
I recently threw all my CDs away. I still had, I was always buying the spindles of 100, but the problem is, for me, CDs is the same as paper. I hate printing. Absolutely hate printing, because for me it's always a waste. I'm going to print something, and it was it never got used. So all I ever used to do was print invoices. It was the only things I didn't mind printing. Just hated wasting paper and hated wasting CDs.
I still have.
I probably threw away 200 CDs because I never used them.
I've still got probably 20 blank CDs. Probably the same. I've got 300 disc stack things. You put the whole stack in and put it like a clip-on lid, and then it's got like a little button, and it dispenses a CD or dispenses one of the discs.
That's cool.
I've had those since the mid 2000s. And I've still got some I've got 3, so I've got CDRs, I've got DVD plus Rs and DVD dash Rs.
I was hoping you weren't old enough to be remembering all of the dashes and pluses.
Yeah, I do remember the DVD format wars.
I've actually, I may have still kept them because they were really expensive, but I've got the dual layer DVDs, Blu-ray DVDs. I can't remember why I bought them. Maybe they were on a special or something, and I went, wow, finally I can afford those. But I wish they'd bring back mini disc, mainly because of the Matrix. But I always wanted a mini disc head unit in a car.
I had one. I had the Sony mini disc head unit because my dad having a recording studio. He had a proper mini disc stack. So you'd burn a lot of stuff to mini disc, and so he used it quite a lot. So I had quite a few mini disc things. I had a mini stereo. Say mini stereo. The standard.
Yeah.
Stereos you'd get at the time, and it was Iowa, and it had a triple disc.
I had one of those.
Multi-changer in, so 3 CDs in the top, and it also had 3 mini discs in the front.
Oh,
so
wow!
You could put 3 CDs in and put 3 mini discs in, and push one button, and it would copy each one to each one. It'd cycle through them, which was brilliant.
Seeing Dan Sandy still got his.
They were supposed to be doing mini disc data, and again, it's proprietary format bullshit licensing stuff. But the idea was they were supposed to be doing data mini discs for computers. So I spent years searching to try and find these, because that was my plan, was to get a 5 1/4 inch bay with a mini disc in it, and never managed to find one.
Well, I had the original Sony expensive model for the portable mini disc player, so the one that actually could do the recording to it, but with the full LCD display, and it took the lithium-ion battery on the side of it. So it was much wider than all of the others, whereas anyone else I knew had bought the cheaper ones, which were just the size of the mini disc, so they couldn't record. And mine came with all of the optical cables and stuff like that, so you can come straight out of your CD players. And that way, if you go into a record, so you could take it from your CD and then take it with you, it would then do the track marking.
Yeah.
Whereas anything else, if you just use the line in, it didn't do that. And I was upset the day that I decided that I didn't want that anymore. I was hanging on to it for years for no apparent reason. It was just sat in a drawer. But I almost destroyed 3 lithium-ion batteries in the end. Where just used, I mean, they were first thing. I mean, they had like 14 hours of playback, and I'd get to the point where they weren't lasting 5 hours, and realizing, okay, I need another one. But
it's interesting how we hang on to tech, though, isn't it? I mean, I've still got. It's not the first of the type I had. It's the Sony Walkman that I bought. I had a cassette player before the Sony.
Coming out again.
Yeah. But I've got a pile of old phones as well. It's just like
I almost want to go out and get a SIM card just to put in that, but then I need to get a battery and a charger.
Just to answer John's question,
a battery and a charger. Yeah.
Just to answer John's question from earlier, yes, Windows 2000 was the business version of. You had Windows ME and Windows Millennium Edition and Windows Millennium, because there were 3 completely distinct things. They were the home OS, and then Windows 2000 was the continuation from NT. So you had 3.1, and then you had NT 3.1, and then NT 4, and then Windows 2000, Windows XP was the kind of reunification when they ditched the 9X platform and basically migrated everyone over to what was then the NT platform.
Yeah, if it didn't run games or something like that, was it? It was certain things it was missing, but it was more powerful in other ways or something.
Yeah, it would run it. It had all the network stuff that Windows ME didn't, and because it was driver compatibility basically, because people were so used to writing drivers for Windows 98. Again, because like 98, you had 98 A, B, and SE.
And you had Plus, where it had in all the random things like the mouse pointers and.
Yeah. But then Windows ME was basically a continuation on from Windows 98, but ME and 2000 came out around the same time, and it was like the home and the gaming stuff versus the corporate business based on the NT platform for all the networking, because Windows NT was Windows networking technology.
Well, that's what it stood for.
Yeah, so you had the NT was all the business stuff, so you could do all the proper networking and shared drives and all that bullshit. So that was the kind of the route that took, and then they realised that home people wanted to do that as well. So then XP was that kind of like, it was having XP home and then professional. That was basically what they did, is they took out like domain access and things. So then everything since then has been running on the NT platform, and Windows ME was the last of the Windows 9X.
Oh, okay.
So where's just gone 11, and I know that, Simon, you've got work in the morning.
I have.
I didn't want to do we had a record last week. We definitely don't want to do a record this week.
Yeah,
as well.
I don't want to beat that one.
I think that one might last for a while.
I hope so, because I feel sorry for you two if it doesn't.
I think the only way we're going to beat that is we start recording earlier.
Yeah, there's certainly plenty of people who are still working their way through that one, which we're very thankful for, obviously.
And will be for some time, I think.
Yes. So, kind of, you've already mentioned a little bit today of what you've been up to, but your attention grabbers for this week? Obviously, what's been grabbing your attention? So I know you've been kind of doing some work in your workshop. Kind of anything else?
It has been, but I'm actually going to go back to the lady that I spoke about last time at the end, which was Dr. Becky, because I still keep watching more and more of her videos at the moment, and that's basically all I've been watching. And she's, I forgot what actually her qualification is, but astrophysicist on YouTube, and I just like the way she does her videos. They make sense. She's not boring. She doesn't have one of these annoying, really robotic voices, which you keep going through and you're thinking, oh, this one sounds interesting. You play it and it's got that very American robot voice, and you're thinking, oh, come on, you've gone to the extent to write the script. Just read it. Yeah. You can't sound any worse than this person or this fake voice. And I just like the way her videos work. It kind of almost you come away with it and you feel just that smidge bit more intelligent. I mean, there's no way I'll ever become an astrophysicist, but
never say never.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I mean, Brian May did, didn't he? He
true.
temporarily hung his guitar up and
He had the hair for it.
true.
I finished the PhD he started kind of 30 years earlier. Yeah. I mean, the story I sometimes tell, or used to tell, sort of students and other people, was when I did my degree. I think there were about 30 of us doing physics that year, probably maybe slightly less. I can't remember. It's a long time ago. But there were two people that kind of stood out from the rest. One was a guy who'd worked for BT for all his career. I mean, it was kind of those days when you had one job for life, or one employer for life, and he'd worked for BT from when he left school to the age of 60, where he retired, and he did a physics degree purely because he wanted to do a physics degree. He had no interest in a career, so he lived locally, so he wasn't involved in any of the sort of campus stuff. He'd come to the odd physics department do Christmas do or something like that, but he didn't kind of you wouldn't find him down the students' union. But the other guy that stood out was 33 when he started. So most of us were 18. He was 33. He'd left school at 14. Being a brickie, he left school basically with no qualifications. He did a day release in his kind of early 20s. He did a day release and had to go to college. They identified that he was dyslexic, introduced him to these newfangled things called computers that have really helped him. And then he started studying and enjoying stuff, and he started a physics degree, and he now has a PhD in nuclear physics.
Wow, that's
As
impressive.
you do.
Yeah, and and nuclear physics is it's not the easiest bit of physics.
Go shake someone's hand at some fancy conference, and they go, "Crikey, your hands are rough for a nuclear." Oh yeah, 6 weeks ago I was a brickie. I don't mean that it took him 6 weeks to do it. Just he was still paying for it up to that point.
Yeah.
So never say never. You don't know what you might end up doing.
This is
Well,
true.
I'd like to try and get into try and keep saying I'm going to try and get into coding, and I've got enough bits for projects now. Part of my 10 things. I want to say it's to find the time at the moment, but actually to find the time is sitting here, and I have so many distractions on this machine that to be honest, more than the things on the machine, actually it's the people that are on it, because that's the
I
problem.
can only apologise.
You turn the computer on, Discord wakes up, and you go, oh, such and such is hanging out in that. Hello. That was it. There's another evening gone.
Yeah, easily done.
It's even worse now. You've got Human Fall Flat as well, because we'll be playing that more.
Yeah, to be honest, that was hysterical, and I wasn't playing. I was just watching at that point.
Yeah, just wait till you play it.
Yeah, it is fun to watch that. Yeah. Jamie, what's been grabbing your attention?
I've been buying a car. So we over Christmas and New Year, we had a little bit of fun. So our heating stopped. So I've been sorting all the rubbish out for that. So hopefully within the next week we should actually have heating back in the house, because that's been nearly 2 weeks now without any heating. But the car also went flat, so I had to source and purchase a new car. So we've been and seen a few that were absolute dog shit, but wanted silly money for them despite needing lots of stuff. And then we found an absolute belter, so we went and picked it up yesterday. So now the proud owner of a 12-year-old Mitsubishi ASX, which is the newest car I've ever owned, being 12 years old. And it's weird. It's got all the bells and whistles from 12 years ago. So it's a nice leap forward.
Mitsubishi were always good at putting stuff in their cars, so even when you didn't know of it existing, Mitsubishi had it.
Yeah,
I had a Mitsubishi for about 6 weeks. At one point,
this doesn't sound like it's going to bode well for me.
Yeah, it was an automatic. It was a lovely car. It was I think Charisma.
Oh yeah.
GDX. It was a nice car, but about 6 weeks into owning it, it started to stall. It's an automatic, and automatics aren't supposed to stall. So I took it to a garage, and they kind of said, no, automatics aren't supposed to stall. So they did some investigations, and they came back and said, you need a new throttle body arrangement. And I was like, well, what's a throttle body arrangement? He said, about 1,500 quid.
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
Right. So I took it somewhere else for a second opinion, and they kind of said the same thing. I was like, well, I didn't pay 1,500 quid for the car. And there was no guarantee. They didn't like, oh yeah, that'll definitely sort it. It was more a case of, it might sort it out, might not though. So it's like, oh great. That was that got part exchanged for a brand new car actually, but the brand new car was only £6,000 and had 3 years 0% finance on it, so which saw me good for about 10 years, 11 years.
Well, the car that we've just replaced, I've had that for 9 years, and that's actually being picked up by the scrappy tomorrow. And despite the fact that it's a 20-year-old Honda, it's a 2001 Honda HRV that I think I paid 1,800 quid for 9 years ago, and we've done 65,000 miles in it in 9 years. It's been all over the country. It's hauled everything, everywhere, on road, off road, been to festivals, been loaded up with slabs and materials and all sorts of stuff. Probably maybe cost me about 1,500 quid in repairs over those 9 years. And the scrappy who's coming tomorrow is going to give me 310 quid for it.
Yeah, that's all right.
I can't grumble at that.
No.
That's cheap motoring. And the engine's still running perfectly. It's the only reason why I didn't go through the MOT is because of the welding.
There's no metal left.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's about to fall apart. But it's still running beautifully. The engine's still tearing away perfect. And even the mechanical MOT
even with the body shell resting on top of the engine. Yeah.
Yeah, vaguely still attached to the front end and nothing else. But yeah, the mechanic who basically gave me the bad news when he did the MOT said, it's a real shame that that it's that's gone, because it'd run for another 20 years, no problem. It's
yeah.
How well. How about you, Andy? What about
new
you?
Wheels?
Yeah.
A few things this week. A couple of good podcasts. Listened to this week. 2/3 podcast that came out today, or 2/3 focused, I should say. Podcast that came out today with our friend John D. Harvey on. That's a good listen. Talking about kind of workshops. Yeah, that was well worth listening to. Another podcast that I heard, actually also today, Simple Electronics podcast. It's kind of more of a although I think it's Dan who's the guy who hosts it. Usually interviews people.
I heard his interview with Big Clive a few months back.
Yeah, but this week he was interviewing Adam Haley, who's who's one of the developers of Lightburn, the laser software.
Ooh.
Also one of the hosts of the Makers on Tap podcast. A really interesting chat talking about things like open source software, a little bit about lasers, software engineering. It's a good listen if you're into that kind of sort of thing.
So which one's that?
Simple Electronics podcast. It's Adam Haley, who Haile is the guest on this week's. Obviously, links to all these things will be in show notes in the next few days. Laura Kampf had a good video today. She's flown to New York. She's currently spending quite a considerable amount of time in Tom Sachs' studio. She's going to be one of the astronauts in the closure of the Tom Sachs. Trying to think what it would be called in Hamburg. There's the event that we've talked about. I think when Caro were on.
Caro and Laura went. Yeah.
So she's been fitted out with a
I saw the
spacesuit
pictures
and
of
things.
the spacesuit.
I
so
saw those.
that's quite exciting. I think sometime in April it's going to be closing. It'd be nice to go and see, but I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. I've got to save up for Maker Central first of all. So it was that, and I got into the Tinkerage today.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yep.
I only spent 10 minutes. I spent 10 minutes just trying to do. I got a little bit of tidying done. And basically, I was talking to Jamie and Simon before the show, talking about how for me I need to generate routines and habits. So I've set myself the target of just getting into the Tinkerage 10 minutes every day. So that's what I'm going to aim to do, and some days it'll be longer, and some days it might not be quite, but yeah, I'm going to aim for 10 minutes every day. So to try and get that moving and just get back out there, and hopefully there'll be some longer sessions as well. But yeah, I managed to get in there and got a few things put away. So that's the kind of goals for this year, or is one of the kind of goals for this year, to get in there and get moving again, and get some videos out and things like that. So yeah, that's been it really.
Very cool. That's cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So I need to get. Still haven't sorted out a guest for next week. I think I know who I'm going to ask for next week. So there's a problem. And then we need to get. We've got, as we've talked about before, we've got our list of people we want to ask, and we've got a list of people we've asked and who've said yes, but haven't been on yet. I need to start actually sort of talking to some of those and arranging some dates and getting things in place. So,
yeah, but just scroll through the chat and pick one of them.
Well, maybe that's what I've done.
Let's see who's been the quietest and pick that one.
Well, there's definitely a few people in the chat. Definitely, we want to get on this year.
Too right.
So, yeah, maybe it'll be one of those next week. Have to wait and see.
Right. Yeah. Well, shall we thank our lovely guest for joining us this week?
Yeah, the second,
then,
I think first guest 2 weeks in a row.
And first guest to do a special before they'd been on proper.
Yes, yeah, because normally the group chats are previous guests.
True. Although interestingly, did I say neither one my name?
I don't think so. No. We'll introduce you properly the third time.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll come back on next week. Be like
you might have to. If the person I'm going to ask tomorrow doesn't say yes, then I may have to. Yeah.
I just think some of the best movies always went in reverse.
Yeah, I'll skip the Whovian thing for that one. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for coming on, Simon. And
no worries, thank you.
Yeah.
People, if people want to find you, anything that you do, where might they best?
I think I'm Simon Harmon on Instagram, and that's really about it.
I think it'll get you there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some people have found me because I've ended up with, I think, 3 people adding me today, which was a shock.
Hey. Well, I think I did put a link into the show notes already, so it's the only part of the show notes that's already in place.
And I forgot I didn't send you a better picture when that one appeared, and I was like, oh crap.
Well, next time.
Yeah.
Next time. And on that note, we'll say goodbye, folks, and we'll see you next week.
See you later. Thank you very much.
Cheers, folks.